I'm going to ask you to do something kind of weird. Stop thinking of yourself as being made of particles. Seriously, because it turns out you're not. I know, you learn that you're made of atoms, which are made of these tiny little billiard balls, electrons, quarks, little solid things all the way down. Well, that entire picture is just not right.
And hey, don't just take my word for it. That's the quote from Sir Roger Penrose, one of the most brilliant minds in physics today. And what he's telling us is that our most basic, fundamental idea of what the world is made of, this idea of a particle, isn't just a little off. It's a profound mistake.
So, on the one hand, you've got our cozy, intuitive picture of the world, a universe built from little separate things. But on the other hand, you have the reality that's described by our absolute best theory of physics, quantum field theory. And what it says is that the universe is really made of these invisible, vibrating fields. And you're a stable pattern, kind of dancing within them. Okay, so let's do it. Let's throw out that old picture and start building this new one from scratch. And the hero of our new story, the one fundamental ingredient that makes up absolutely everything, is the quantum field.
So what even is a field? It sounds complicated, but the basic idea is actually super simple. A field is just something that has a value, everywhere in space. Think about the temperature in the room you're in right now. Every single point in that room has a specific temperature. That's a field. Or the Earth's magnetic field. It has a strength and a direction at every single point. Simple enough, right?
And this is where the whole idea of a particle gets turned completely on its head. See, in this new picture, a particle isn't a thing at all. It's just a ripple, a little localized vibration in its field. The absolute best way to think about it is a wave on the ocean. A wave isn't made of some special wave stuff, is it? No, it's just a pattern, a disturbance that moves through the water. Well, an electron is just like that. It's a ripple in the electron field. And here's the really cool part, the payoff. The moment you start thinking about the world in terms of fields instead of little particles, a whole bunch of those super weird quantum mysteries that we always hear about, they suddenly start to make perfect sense. Okay, first up, particle creation. You've heard about this, right? In giant particle accelerators, we smash things together and brand new particles just, poof, appear out of nowhere. And they can vanish just as easily. Now, if particles were little solid things, how in the world would that be possible? Well, with fields, the answer is actually kind of beautiful. You can't create a thing from pure energy, but you can absolutely create a pattern. When you pump a ton of energy into a field, it's like smacking the surface of a pond. You create ripples, particles. And when that ripple dies down, the energy gets released and the particle is gone. It's not magic, it's just physics. Here's another one that's really deep. Every single electron, whether it's in your brain or in a star halfway across the universe, is a perfect, flawless, indistinguishable clone of every other electron. Why? I mean, if they were just tiny little pellets, you'd expect some tiny little variations, right? It's because they aren't separate objects. There is only one electron field, and it fills the entire universe. So every single electron that exists is just a different ripple in that one single underlying ocean. Of course, they're all identical. They're all made of the exact same stuff, the field itself. And what about the big one? Einstein's spooky action at a distance, quantum entanglement. How can two particles, even if they're separated by light years, be so connected that measuring one instantly affects the other one? It seems to break the speed of light. The whole problem is in the words we use. We call them two particles, and that makes us think they're separate. But from the field's point of view, they were never separate to begin with. They're just one single, spread-out pattern in the field. So when you poke one part of the pattern, of course the whole pattern changes instantly. It was always just one connected thing. Now, quantum field theory, or QFT, is the most successful, most precisely tested theory in the entire history of science. The predictions it makes are mind-bogglingly accurate. But, and this is a big but, as Penrose points out, it has a kind of dark secret. It's a little bit of a mess, and it's hiding a huge problem. The problem is infinity. When physicists actually sit down and try to use the equations of QFT to calculate something basic, like the mass of an electron, the raw answer that pops out of the mass is infinity, which is, obviously wrong. So what do? Well, they use this mathematical sleight of hand called renormalization. Basically, they do the calculation, they get an answer of infinity, and then they just carefully subtract another infinity from it.
It's a trick that lets them cancel out the infinities and leave behind the correct answer that we actually measure in experiments. It works with stunning precision, but it feels like cheating. It's a huge sign that, as amazing as QFT is, it's not the final story.
So let's put that little crack in the theory aside for just a moment. Because even with its flaws, this field-based view of reality completely rewrites the answer to the most personal question there is. What are you? Take a look at this number. That is roughly how many atoms make up an average person. 7 octillion. It's a number so big our brains can't even really process it, and we tend to think of ourselves as a collection of all these countless little pieces. But now we know better, don't we? Every single one of those 7 octillion atoms and all the quarks and electrons inside them, none of them are actually a thing. Each one is just a temporary, fleeting, vibrating pattern in a few cosmic fields that stretch across the entire universe. So what does that make you? Well, the most important takeaway is this. You are not an object. You are a process. You're a fantastically complex, stable, self-organizing pattern of field vibrations. You're like a localized, stable knot in the very fabric of the universe. Maybe you're just a way the universe has figured out how to become aware of itself. And what's so wild is that this idea of a fundamental unity, that separation is just an illusion, it isn't new. For thousands of years, mystics and philosophers have said, all is one. And it turns out that our most powerful, most advanced theory of physics has finally found a way to say the exact same thing, just in the language of mathematics. So let's end on this thought. You are not a static pile of tiny objects. You are a dynamic, evolving pattern. You're a process, a temporary melody playing out in an eternal symphony. You aren't a thing at all. You are a song that the universe is singing. And what a complex and beautiful song it is.